All right, we're live right now on Instagram and on Facebook and on YouTube. Happy Monday, y'all. Um, happy Monday. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Happy Monday. I hope your weekend was awesome and everything that you wanted it to be. I had a chance to get away for the weekend and it was nice. I needed it. I'm going to be doing it again soon. So let's get into this conversation. Welcome. If you are catching this on the replay, say hey in the comments. That is okay, Shells. I appreciate you for being here right now. Thank you, Angel Boob Girl. I'm gonna have to change it soon, but I'm liking it. I think this is gonna be my hair for a minute. I like this hair. Um, Happy Monday. Let's get into this conversation about storms and sometimes thinking about and considering that the storms that come into our lives are also invitations and what that can look like for us. So, if this is your first time here, welcome to the Confetti Collective, where we um, offer and create confidence coaching for her. Who is her? You. Her is you. You and you and you. My name is Mo James. I am a confidence coach and founder of the Confetti Collective as a brand. And like I said, I want to talk about storms. If we were to kind of think as a collective, we in on this entire globe have been in a storm. We've been dealing with the storm together, being the pandemic, and then a lot of us have had other issues and challenges and other turbulent times in our lives that we've been trying to navigate on top of the pandemic. If you've been catching my last couple of broadcasts, you all know that I have had multiple deaths in my family over the past couple of months, and the last one was my father. So yeah, when I say storms, I'm in it too. Like nobody is immune to dealing with storms in their lives. And I want to have this conversation because especially when we think about brands like this one, where we talk about personal growth and elevation and empowerment and all of those things, we usually only talk about the after. We highlight the after, right? We highlight, oh, how shiny and glowy your life is going to be, and how everything is going to be awesome. We don't often talk about the transition, the messy middle. We don't often talk about the downs. We only talk about the ups. We don't often talk about the valleys. We talk only about the peaks. And I want to have an honest conversation today. Hey, y'all on Facebook. I want to have an honest conversation today because for me, I take my responsibility as a confidence coach very seriously, and I do not believe in having any of us out here ill prepared, right? Like, I don't want any of us to show up to our growth and transformation with the wrong outfit on, or without the right tools, or without the right accessories. So, this conversation is necessary so that we all can know how to prepare ourselves because we know what to expect. So, I like to think sometimes about the storms that come into our lives, as sometimes being the spark that can ignite our journey of unlearning and self-discovery and confidence. Because a lot of times we expect that spark, we expect the thing that activates, us to say, I'm going to start focusing on myself. I'm going to start uh, unlearning some of these patterns and these unhealthy habits, and I'm going to start replacing those things with new and better affirmations and practices and habits in my life, so that I can start to live the life that I desire for myself. We sometimes think that that spark is going to look a certain way. We don't often recognize that sometimes that spark comes in the form of a storm. Sometimes that spark comes in the form of a disruption, your life, the whole apple cart of your life being flipped over, like your life blowing up. Sometimes that's what it looks like. Other times it could look like the princess and the pea, where you are just in a constant state of aggravation and you don't know why. You are just uncomfortable. You know how it feels when you are walking around with a pebble in your shoe? It's just aggravating. It's grating on your nerves and you are uncomfortable. Sometimes that's what that storm can look like in your life. Sometimes that's what it can feel like in your life. So, what I want to talk about today is recognizing that the storm can also be the invitation. The invitation for you to create something different, redesign your life could be wrapped in that storm. And if we decide to sit back and just wait for the storm to pass on its own, we miss the gems. We miss the journey of discovery. We miss learning who we could be or who we could become if we got into it. So, when I was thinking about this conversation, I thought about my own journey and how after I graduated high school, I kind of had a season in my life where I was really unanchored. Like just out here willy-nilly. Just floating around like the little things at the car dealerships, just somebody's doing this over there. Okay, I'm a part of that. This is happening. Okay, this like just no real clear vision for what I wanted my life to be because my life had already been upset. I was thinking I was going to go to college right after high school and that didn't happen. So I I was really just out here just floating, like just moving on autopilot. I had moved into my own apartment. I was working a job at the time was really coveted in my area. Like everybody wanted to work in this place, a telecommunications company, and I was making $8.50 an hour. You can tell me nothing, okay? I for somebody who at the time for somebody who had a high school diploma, I was doing pretty good for myself. I had no plan that this was going to be my path, but I recognized that, okay, I have to make the best of a plan Z situation because this wasn't even plan A, B, C, D, E, and so forth. This was like plan Z. And I was trying to figure out how to be okay with plan Z. Who can relate to that? You tell yourself, well, nobody else around me is complaining about this, so I'm not going to either. Everybody else looks like, they're okay with this kind of life. So I'm going to just tell myself every day that this will be okay. Even though I felt a tug, a pull, I was so discontented. I was so quietly aggravated about my life at the time. And every day that I got up and I went to work and then, went to happy hour with my girlfriends and we were eating seafood and doing all of these things and buying purses and all of these things, like I recognized that I was pretending to be okay because everybody else around me looked like they were okay with it. But I was pretending. I felt stuck and disrupted at the same time. So after getting sick of my own self, I decided that I was going to have a conversation with a friend. I was going to reach out to a friend, somebody that I could trust, somebody that I knew would tell me the truth, and I would share with her what I was experiencing. And she listened and she introduced me to a different possibility for my life. She told me about being in the military. She herself was in the military. She talked to me about it and I was like, well, that was never on, my plan. That was never in my plans to join the military, but so was this life that I have right now. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to go take the test. I took the test, passed the test with flying colors, and enlisted without telling my family. Like I enlisted. I raised my right hand. I enlisted, and I did not tell my family. So And after I enlisted and had started quietly making plans to leave, I went to my grandmother's house and decided that she was going to be the first person in my family that I was going to tell. Um, and I told her, I was like, well, I'm getting ready to go and I'm going to leave, and I have no plans of coming back here to live. And that part was really difficult for me to say because I had older cousins who would also join the military, but they came back, everybody came back home. And here I was saying, well, I'm going to go and I'm not coming back. Like, I'm not coming back. And I really struggled with having that conversation with her, with telling her. And, if your grandmother was like my grandmother, she always told you exactly what you needed to hear when you needed to hear it. And my granny said, well, baby, you know what? Sometimes you got to do what you think you got to do. And she freed me just like that. She gave me the freedom to acknowledge the storm and to willingly go into it and create something new, not knowing at the time what that something new was going to look like. All I knew was staying on this side of the storm was not ideal. All I knew was the decision to stay put was not going to work. I was done with that. I had to step into this thing and create something else. So in her book, Brene Brown, some of you all know that I am a huge fan of Brene Brown. In her book, Rising Strong, she talks about dealing with the reckoning. And the reckoning is when you start to recognize that you are having some new feelings and you're like, where is this coming from? What is this about? Like I said at the top, that princess and the pea, that aggravation, that discontented feeling, that never being settled feeling, that's the reckoning. And you're starting to recognize, okay, this thing won't go away. I'm partying, I'm drinking, I'm shopping, I'm doing all of the things that I've always done to numb myself, and those things aren't working now. So the reckoning happens, and you have to start to identify and acknowledge what you are feeling. And also get curious about where those feelings are coming from. Because you see, when I started to acknowledge that I was unhappy, I was not satisfied with the life I was living, I also had to start to think about, well, what is this about? Where is this coming from? Why am I feeling like this? What am I feeling? The reckoning requires you to be honest about what you feel without judging yourself for it. Because what I know sometimes happens to us is, again, if you're in a situation like I was in, and you realize that you are dissatisfied, but nobody else around you is dissatisfied, you start to judge yourself for being dissatisfied. And you think, well, what's wrong with you? Everybody else is happy with this. Everybody else has accepted this. Why are you trying to be different? Why are you trying to be an individual? Right? So being curious about the feelings, being curious about what you're experiencing, but don't judge yourself for your feelings. Stay curious. Don't judge yourself if you feel dissatisfied in an environment where everybody else appears to be satisfied. Don't judge yourself for that. You have an opportunity to dig deeper. Becoming aware. I recognize that I have been walking around, and every woman that's watching this is going to identify with this, wiggling myself into a life that did not fit. You pull those jeans out of the closet that the whole time you're sticking your feet in the leg, you're like, I don't know if these things are going to go all the way up. And so then you do the jiggle wiggle thing to make them fit. That's what I was doing with my life. Every day I was getting up, wiggling myself into a life that did not fit. And I only recognized that after giving myself the freedom to acknowledge what I was feeling. So that's the first tip for you. Give yourself the space, the permission, the freedom to acknowledge what you are feeling. Don't judge yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Don't should on yourself and say, well, you should be, and I should be, and I shouldn't be. Don't do that to yourself. Give yourself all the room in the world to identify that you're in a storm. All the room in the world. So the key question that I asked in this time was, what is this here to show me about me? I'm dissatisfied right now. What is this dissatisfaction that I feel here to show me about me? I am uncomfortable just waiting for payday to go to happy hour and then get drunk and go home. What is this discomfort here to show me about me? What is this anger? What is this frustration? What is this loneliness? Whatever it is that you're experiencing, what is it here to show you about you? That's the reckoning. So the storm is already in your life. You're feeling it and you're reacting to it. Your feelings are showing up in response to the storm, in response to the reckoning. The next phase of it is the rumble. The rumble happens when you decide that you are not going to wait for the storm to pass, but you are going to get in it and you are going to wrestle with everything that the storm is here to show you about you. You're not going to sit around and expect somebody else to come in and figure it out for you. You're going to take responsibility. You're going to take ownership. And then you're going to take up space in the storm. Wrestling with unlearning what you've been taught that you recognize now is not healthy. Wrestling with the fact that you might be growing at a different pace than the people around you. So that's going to mean you might have to leave them, or you might have to redesign your relationship with them. What stories have you been borrowing? Whose limits and whose trauma and whose past hurts have you been carrying around like it's yours? What lies have you been telling yourself? What are you learning and growing to understand about yourself in the storm? All of these are questions that you're going to want to start asking you. You are asking you as you are wrestling with everything that the storm has brought to your doorstep. You're picking these things up and saying, well, I used to do this and I've been doing this for as long as I can remember. But how does this make me feel? Or I've been having conversations like this for as long as I can remember. But is that the kind of stuff I want to engage in? You're interrogating your past behaviors, your habits, your tendencies, all of those things, because that's what the storm is here to do. It's an invitation for you to look at yourself objectively without judgment and then redesign your life in a way that aligns with who you want to be, who you want to become. For me, stepping into the storm looked like enlisting and joining the military, selling all of my stuff, getting rid of everything I had and leaving. And then going to basic training and doing all of the stuff that comes with being a soldier and shedding stories and habits and whatever that didn't fit the transition that I was in. I couldn't bring that old baggage. I couldn't bring those unproductive habits. I couldn't bring those things. The storm literally stripped them away. You can choose if you will allow the process in the storm to strip everything away from you that does not support who you are becoming, that doesn't align with the type of life that you want to create. But you got to accept the invitation first. My storm, the example that I just gave you all, my storm was my invitation to take ownership of my life in a way that I had never done before. What if for you, saying yes and accepting the invitation becomes the start of you finding yourself in a new, shinier, glowier, more flexible, more moisturized way, or whatever it is that you want for yourself? What if instead of waiting on the sidelines of your life and expecting somebody else to come in and tell you who to be and tell you what to do and tell you how to live, what if you saw the storm and you said, you know what? I need to know what's on the other side of this. And you accepted the invitation and you got in it. And through that process, you discovered yourself in a different way. You emerged out on the other side different, with a different mindset and a different way of being and a clearer vision for your life. I am here to offer you the choice to accept the invitation, to step in the storm. Because if my experience is any type of testimony, has been any type of testimony for you, you are worth discovering who you will be on the other side. You are worth it. You are worth knowing how you can evolve. And that process happens in the storm. It happens with the reckoning and in the rumbling. You can't rise if you haven't rumbled first. And don't be scared. You have what it takes. This is your life. You have what it takes, and this is your life. You get to choose what it's going to look like, what type of impact you're going to make. You get to choose that. And that's the beauty of this entire conversation, is it's a choice. Your choice, not my choice for you, but your choice for yourself. I'm just here to encourage you to RSVP for the reckoning and the rumble. Say yes to it, because you're going to rise on the other end. That much I am certain. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. I hope this conversation has been helpful for you, or in some way, shape, or form. I would love to know your takeaways. Let me know in the comments what you are thinking. If those of you that are in a storm, I see some comments I saw some comments come through on Facebook. Somebody said, this conversation is so important. It took my storm to bring me to my knees, surrounded by my brokenness, to choose to rebuild and rise into the woman I was meant to be. That right there. That right there but you got to say yes to it. Somebody else said, I would never have realized the unhealthy cycle I was living had I not encountered this storm. I'm just saying, especially when everybody around you is acting like it's okay. You start to think something is wrong with you, right? You do. You start to think something's wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're being called into the storm. Say yes. All right, I'm gonna go. I appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. Hey, Bishop. Bishop was on here too. I appreciate y'all so much for tuning in, for being here. Like I said, I hope the conversation um, has been helpful in some way. And save this for the moment when you will have to make that decision if you're going to accept the invitation. Because if you haven't had your chance yet, like the old folks say where I'm from, keep on living. If you haven't experienced it yet, keep on living. Your time will come. And don't decline your invitation. I got to go. I appreciate you all so much for tuning in. I'll catch you later.